We're live on Facebook.
Hey, Facebook family, it's Jo Hawkins here with Influencr Magazine, and today we have a very special guest. We have Steven Eugene Kuhn, who is here to tell us all about his human sales funnel, how you can develop one for your own business. And not only that, but Steven is a rather fascinating guy. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He's been a war veteran, so he is combat veteran, absolutely very honored to have you here with us, Steven. Steven has been handpicked to work with some of the most influential people on the planet. He turns businesses around across the globe and has worked with all sorts of interesting people. Shall we hint at them now or just now?
As you wish. I'm easy.
All right, we'll leave it as suspense. We
Okay.
will leave it as suspense. Steven, welcome. Tell us all about this exciting whole thing that you've got going. We're dying to hear everything because you've got some very unusual gifts. Am I right?
I like to think so. Yeah, it's hard to say. Everyone's life is sort of relative to their own experience. So, I'm as you said, military veteran, and I was stationed in Europe for almost 8 years during that time. And I got what they call a European out. I just stepped off base basically in Germany and became a civilian. So I didn't go back home to the States, didn't do anything. I just literally stayed in Europe and have been here ever since. I got out in 1993 and I got into, security, because what else are you going to do, right? Military. And then I got into the cocktail bar business and then the nightclub business and got into some trouble. But one thing I realized is really quick when I was a doorman in Berlin, Germany, is that when you do what you do the best you can do it, and you rise to the top of the pile of what, of that industry, it doesn't matter what the industry is, because people are going to notice and they're going to want to work with you. So I was, the most known doorman in Berlin, and, or so they say. And that took me to places because, I literally got my first offer from South Africa. It was a guest of mine who said, "Steve, would you help me bring a chain from South Africa to Germany, a chain of health clubs?" And I was like, "Sure, I can do that." I never did it, but I can do that. And we did, and we crushed it. And then I got headhunted by a British PLC. I did the same thing for them. We ended up in 9 countries, 87 locations. I was director of Europe for operations and development. Just, worked my way up. And then, in 2008, everything crashed and I had to start over again, which was actually very cool because I was actually homeless 2008 in Germany, which, if you can imagine, is really difficult because they have a great social system there. But because I was an entrepreneur, I didn't have any rights to have any of those social system benefits.
And you weren't German, right?
Right. Well, I speak German. So, I wrote a book in 2003 that's a bestseller in Germany, and I did some German TV. And
okay.
This past election, I did the American election. I did the inauguration and the election night, sort of moderation on German TV as well. But I live in Hungary, so it's I'm all over the place. Yeah.
So tell us about this human sales funnel. We are intrigued.
Yeah, well, everything that I do is based on core principles that I call HIT. So some people call me the Hit Man because HIT stands for honesty, integrity, and transparency. Honesty means honesty with yourself first and with everyone around you. So your honesty with yourself means, are you making the right decisions? Are you, saying the right words? Are you being true to who you are, your identity? And the transparency part is how you use that honesty to step into the world. So people see you as a genuine, true person. The byproduct of all that is integrity. You can't be integral. Integrity is literally a byproduct of how you act in the world, how you step into the world. So that's the basis of HIT. Now, our book that just came out, Unleash Your Humble Alpha, with my partner, Lane Ballone, we talk about identity, purpose, and certainty. So identity is who you really are. You've heard it before, how people say, you know who I am, I'm the CEO of XYZ. And I like to step in and say, well, that's interesting, but that's what you do. That's not who you are. So who are you really? The second issue is that a lot of people in positions of power have that power from that position. They don't have it within. They think that the position is what gives them power. And to a certain degree it does, but only to a certain degree. True leaders have a presence where little is said and a lot is accomplished. And every one of us knows one of those leaders. They don't have to say much, just their presence alone, their self-assuredness shows that we can follow them and we want to follow them because everyone wants a good leader around. So that leads to that sort of allows you to crystallize your purpose once you realize who you are. And when you have your purpose aligned with your identity, your purpose amplifies your identity, and that's where that presence comes from that we just talked about. I remember I was in Berlin at a hotel and at a conference, and I felt someone come into the room. You just felt it. Didn't see who it was. They were behind it. Turned around. It was Bill Clinton, and that was sort of an example of how you feel their presence before they even speak. And that comes from knowing who you are and knowing what your purpose is. And of course, that creates a certainty in life where you can detach from how you're going to do something. Because as long as you know you're certain about what you're going to do and what you want to achieve, and it's attached and it's aligned with your identity, then it happens. It just happens. You don't have to, worry about all the little details because you're on that path to greatness as it is. So that's the basis of it all. And then we do this thing, what we call creating space. Creating space is probably the most powerful concept of all here because it's an application that you can use in every single person-to-person meeting, Zoom call, when you're on stage speaking in business meetings or whatever. And this means that when I walk up to somebody, or even this call right now, even this podcast interview right now, I'm not nervous. I have nothing, no wants, no wishes, no expectations. I have one intention. And the reason I have the intention and why I focus on the intention is because the intention is the only thing we really control. We don't control the outcome, and expectations, unless they're verbalized, are a guaranteed letdown. So either you have no expectations or you verbalize them. So when I create space like this, I show up wholly and fully for the person in front of me, that's you right now. And I have one intention, and that is to add value. Any way I can, add value by solving problems. So when you do that, you attract people to you. Everyone around you is like, man, every time I see Steve or every time I see Joe, I just feel great afterwards. Why? Because I'm adding value. I'm elevating them, right? So if I want to increase that relationship, if I want to go deeper, I call we do what we call investing in relational capital. So just like with financial capital, you'll get a return. Well, financial capital, maybe you will, maybe you won't. But with relational capital, you always get a return.
You do.
And the way you do that is you literally elevate, you solve more problems, you introduce them to people, you collaborate, you do JVs, whatever it is that you need to do to make them feel better, to make them successful. And, I was just on a call right before this with my P&E company, my private equity company for M&A, mergers and acquisitions. And I was talking about the same thing again. I had a call yesterday with a guy selling his company, and I had one of the guys on with me. He said, wow, it's amazing how you did the conversation with the seller. Do you have a script? And I said, there is no script. I just create space. Just show up, and your intention is to add value. So everything else falls away. Nervousness, what you want out of it, no preconceived notions, no cookie cutter solutions, nothing. You just show up and 100% holding fully for the person in front of you. So we have HIT, we have creating space, we have relational capital. Then I look at my life as a life enterprise. Just like a CEO of a business enterprise, me as a CEO of my life enterprise, we answer to the stakeholders. And the stakeholders in my life are anybody that I know. Right? So it's all the people that I know. It's also the people that I meet, because sometimes you know the stakeholders intimately, and sometimes you just meet them once in your life. And the intention is to leave them in a better place than when you met them. So if I go down to the post office, it's automatic for me that my intention is to leave there, leaving a vibe behind, leaving them smiling, right? Feeling great when I leave. And that's not because I want something out of it. That's because I know that when I have impact in my immediate world, that it's going to have a radiant value that goes out further and further and further, creating that law of reciprocity that comes back to me. Again, investing in relational capital. So all of those things together lead to one thing that everybody wants in this life, everybody, and that is quality of life. Quality of life is relative. Everyone sees it as a different way. But the way we get to quality of life is having that integration across all areas of life, being present in all areas of life as the same person. So instead of going to the office and feeling super powerful and then coming home and not feeling anything and can't wait to get back to work because that's where you feel your power. You feel power wherever you are, and you're present 100% for everyone in your life, not just your job.
Yeah. Very, very powerful.
It's a challenge. The book we wrote in a specific manner. So everything we talked about, relational capital, HIT, and all those things, creating space, that's not something we just came up with. That's from our life stories. So, these are all practical, applied knowledge, no theory. And the way we did it is we wrote, for each step, there's 5 steps. For each step, we told a story about how, what happened. And then without you knowing it, we come out afterwards and say, okay, this is the lesson that we learned from that story. And once we have the lesson, we tell you how we're going to implement into changing so that you don't have to go through that lesson. And then we have action steps at the end of every section. So you literally have a workbook in front of you that tells you what happened, what we learned out of it, how to do it, and what to do. Boom, just like that. Now that is the book. We have a program called, Humble Alpha Leader Program.
Yes.
Where we take you through the same steps, but we also use other aspects that we can actually get with you. For instance, one of them is the Apollo Neuro, which I know your husband likes. And the Apollo, yeah, the Apollo Neuro is a wearable. Dave Rabin is the inventor of it. Very, very great guy. He works with he uses this also for soldiers with PTSD and people with depression. And what it does is it uses frequencies, vibration on your wrist. So you wear it like a backwards watch. And you can turn it on to wake up. You can turn it on to go to sleep. You can turn it on to meditate. You can turn it on to focus. And I got to tell you,
brain states.
Yeah, you put it on to focus. It's like that. It's incredible. You only need to wear it for like 30 minutes and you're set. And so we work with these things to get the optimal out of our leaders without overwhelming them with too much work. And we mandatorily do nothing in the last week of the month because we want them to plan quality of life actions. So vacation, date night with the queen, right? Or date night with the king, we like to say. Time with your children, time for yourself. I always say the most important meeting of the day is a meeting with yourself. So whatever you want to do for yourself, that's the most important meeting of the day because that's the fuel for the rest of the day. So for me, for instance, I have the gym, with my wife. That's the most important meeting of the day. I know that if I go to the gym with my wife, we're going to have a great training and we're going to come home full of power, ready to roll. And the energy and the presence that I have through that comes through the screen.
Very, very powerful.
Yeah. And this is how we work with all of our clients. This is how I live my life. So Lane lives his life. We also get into the spiritual side. A lot of people, we don't write about that too much in the book. We do write about our experiences with plant medicine, sacred plant medicine from Amazon. I've been working with ayahuasca for 16 years and San Pedro for 5 years. Now in unison. So every time San Pedro and ayahuasca, San Pedro is the masculine grounding plant and ayahuasca is the feminine sort of, spiritual plant. And when you take those two together and you work with them, not in a way of psychedelics get high, but in a way to put a basis to your identity and to find out who you really are and to connect and bind your purpose with that identity. It's a 10-day journey to Peru that we do every year, except for this year so far. We usually do it in May. That just puts you and sets you up in a way that, it's hard to explain what happens after you leave there because your life sort of just falls into place. And we implement the same thing. We implement the same, structure that I just explained for Unleash Your Humble Alpha. But this helps you let go of all the blockages that you have so that you absorb it and internalize it much quicker than you would if you did it, let's say, an hour a day on your job while you're like at lunch break or something. This is going to take you into the full.
Intensive.
Yeah. What's that?
So it's an intensive.
Yes, it's an intensive, and it's very intensive. If you can imagine, we're there for 10 days. We show up having acclimatation day because it's 14,000 feet. Air is very thin, and we're at the Temple of the Moon. So there's a compound that we use there that's literally right at the Temple of the Moon. Anyone who's ever watched Ancient Aliens on the Discovery Channel or the History Channel, they filmed this whole part about the Incans and the alien visitors and all this kind of stuff. That's exactly where we stay. We're literally a minute walk, 30-second walk from the Temple of the Moon, Temple of the Frog, the San Pedro Temple, Pachamama Canal. All these things are right there. So the energy, if anyone who believes in energy and frequency is going to have a blast there. They're just going to be blown away, literally. And then when you work with the plant medicine, it just really takes you to that next level where you can let go of all those things that you think you can't or should or shouldn't do, right? And it's just going to let you flow into that state. And you can embrace who you really are for real in an easier, much more, let's say, less neurological way where you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
More of a natural absorption, I guess you could say.
Okay. So there's no resistance.
Zero. You're connected with the universe, with the earth, with Pachamama, they call it, Mother Earth. And you're absorbing and you're one with everything. It sounds sort of hokey. I remember last year we had this politician from Hungary there. And the first day he said, "Steve, this is bullshit. What's all this woo-woo stuff you guys are, And I said, look, just give it some time, give it some time. And he had cancer, right? So he was like a third-time cancer patient. And the next day, he, broke down crying and said, like, look, this is the most amazing thing I've ever experienced. Thanks for forcing me to stay here, right?
Wow.
Yeah, and he left there a different person to this day. And it's because people who aren't accustomed to or acquainted with sacred plant medicine, they think hippie, they think flowing gowns, and crystals, and we don't roll like that. They do it there, but we go as business leaders. And we work with the medicine in order to let go of all the blockages and preconceived notions that we have about life and how it should be, so that we can actually absorb who we really are.
Fantastic. And so your book, The Humble Alpha, has come out of this. Is that right?
Yes, it's come out of our life. So my partner, Lane Balone, is a Special Forces Green Beret veteran. I'm a combat veteran. And we apply the leadership, let's say, structure that we learned in the military to civilian life. But of course, people think veterans, they learn leadership, they can come out and be super leaders. Structurally, yes. Emotionally, not really. In the military, I see rank, that's who's in charge of me or not. I'm either above them or the same or below. So it doesn't take much psychology to work with soldiers. It's like rank, done. And of course, people forget that we get paid twice a month, at least in the American Army, we get paid twice a month. We're told where to go, when we're going, what we're doing, when we're doing. You don't really have to think that much. I remember when I got out, I was 28. I was like, how do I register to get my electricity? How do I rent an apartment? How do I write a check? I mean, seriously, it was all, like I was 19 again or 18 again. So that natural leadership that everyone says veterans have, of course, officers, they have a college degree, they spent more time as a civilian. Non-commissioned officers typically don't. They go right out of high school, right out of school, and go right into the military. So that civilian world is missing. So we take what we know from there structurally, but we apply what we just talked about, the 5 principles, into that leadership as well. So it's a very comprehensive, proven and over again method that literally you sit back and you go, how can life be this easy? And I don't mean easy money, easy. I mean easy, no worries, no threats, no, because one thing we focus on is that when something happens, anything in life, when anything happens, our mind kicks in and we start worrying about whatever happened. But if you really focus, take back and take a macro view, we're not worried about what's happening, really. Our thoughts is what's making us worry, because you have a car accident, right? So instead of dealing with a car accident, your thought goes, shit, I got to get to work. I'm going to be late. Boss is going to be mad at me. I might get fired. So you're already panicking for something that didn't even happen, right? So when we realize that our thoughts are the things that are leading us astray and making our life crazy, when you realize that, you just stop thinking about those things. So when anything happens, you deal with what happens right there. And even if you're sitting at home, you're chilling out, and you're thinking, man, I hope I get paid this month, or I hope I make some money this month. Don't worry about it. Do what you do best every single day. Invest in relational capital, create space, live by HIT, right? Be the CEO of your life enterprise. You're going to have a life where you're going to have a lot of extra time. I work like 4 hours a day, maximum. And I get a lot.
I love it.
4-hour work day. It's not 4-hour work week, but it's 4-hour work day.
Very good.
I'll write a book.
Very good.
I'll write a book. Think it'll do well? Yeah. It's because I do what I do well, and I do that only. Everything else is delegated or tasked out or paid or whatever. And if I can't do it and I can't find someone else to do it, and it's not mission essential, then we just don't do it.
So what I love about what you're saying is that you're getting the reptilian brain, this is the way I speak, you get the reptilian brain to keep quiet because you're not worrying, you're not giving it any attention. It can't dominate. And then your frontal lobe is able to think and create all of the wonderful resourcefulness, because that's our executive thinking.
Indeed. And the funny thing is this, if you add no expectations to that, seriously, the expectations, let's go through a normal day. You get up, your wife's already downstairs. Oh shit, is she gonna be mad at me because I slept in? Right, first one, right? So that's when we started, right? And it's like, oh, I wonder if she made breakfast. You go down, no breakfast. Oh shit, okay. So there's second expectation, right? One that you haven't met, one that she hasn't met. There's some strange energy in the air because she's like, I don't mind if he slept, but I ain't cooking breakfast, whatever. So it's like it's all this non-communication. It's all we communicate with ourselves through our thoughts, but we don't talk to each other.
This whole theater.
Yeah, it is. And if you go to work and it's like, hey, Steve, the boss wants to see you. Oh, holy shit, what's he want? Oh my God, what did I do? What did I do wrong? That's all expectations, right? That's all. So real simple. Either you have an expectation and you verbalize it, or you don't, and you agree on it, or you don't have one. So suddenly, honest to God, when I started doing this like hardcore, whenever I had it, it's like, stop. Whatever it is going to happen the way I dictate it's going to happen, because you dictate from the inside out, right? So our beliefs and our beliefs and our core values is what dictates what happens on the outside. As soon as I start looking to the outside and trying to match them, I'm going to lose, right? Most of the time. So when you stop living by expectations, suddenly your mind is like empty, and you're like, what in the heck is going on? Why do I feel like I have so much time in my head now? Honestly, it was a weird situation for me when I really went hardcore. And I'm going like, I can think like about things now. I got more creative again. Some old hobbies I broke open again. I started doing more with my Rife machine. And I'm just like, wow, this is amazing, man. Like, expectations really clogged up about 25% of my day.
So you were seriously now living in the present moment.
Yeah, as much as possible. As much as, COVID really made me out of whack, because you're like, oh my God, what's happening? Rah, rah, rah. And it was like, oh, everyone's gonna get sick and die and all this kind of, always talking like that. And then I realized it's just, in my opinion, it's just like the flu as far as the numbers go. I know someone's gonna hate me for that. Some people are gonna love me for that, but that's my thought on that thing. And then I realized, okay, if I think I'm gonna get it, guess what? I'm gonna get it. So I focus on the good thing that I can do. I focus on radiant value in my life enterprise. I focused on empowering my family. I focused on, the positivity in the world, not on the negativity. Even now with all these riots and everything going on in America, which is really tough for me to watch because it's my land that I fought for and that I love. Everyone has a right to do what they think they have to do. The only problem is when you start hurting other people, then it's not your right anymore.
Yes.
That's just the way I see it. And we got to realize that we're not perfect. No one's perfect. And the human condition is messing up, screwing up, doing something wrong. It's lying to yourself. It's all these bad things. But why should I, take time to worry about that stuff and think about that stuff? It's the human condition. It's who we are. So I look past that. I look at, what am I doing good? What can I add to? How can I add to, to my life enterprise? How can I add value to everyone in my life enterprise? Even if it's just a mood. And people who know, this is the deal though. It has to come from a truth from the inside. You can't be doing it for an external reason to get external accolades or wins or money, because it's going to come across as false. And for instance, I have partners, right? So Lane is one of the partners. We have Jeff and Guy, and we have an acupuncture clinic in San Diego, funny enough. And we focus on veterans and first responders. And as soon as I'm not aligned with who I am, they see it like that. That's the key, is that once you start this path, you got to keep it. And people say, but that's not a lot of work. Well, yeah, but so is all the expectations that I no longer have, and so is all of the worry. Yes. Right. So it's not work to worry, and it's not work to think negative. It's work to stay positive, and it's work to let go of the expectations.
But it's much easier because you get into flow, right?
Yes, exactly. And negativity brings negativity. When you have a negative thought, you start doing negative actions. When you have a positive thought, you start doing positive actions. And so when you know this stuff, the tools that you get in that book tell you this, and you're like, you know what? It's literally a choice. If I let the outside world dictate my reality, I'm a freaking slave. I'm a slave. I'm not a slave. I don't want to be a slave. Well, then I can't let anything that happens in the outside world dictate my mood, the way I treat my family, the way I'm with my friends, but most of all, how I am to myself.
Yes.
How I am to myself.
Wow.
It's a lot of work, but it's well worth it. And I'll tell you, like I said, I work 4 hours a day, and now you know why, because the other 4 hours I'm working on myself. But it's an on and off thing. Sometimes you'll go, a couple months, and you're in the flow, and then you get a little whack on the side of the head from COVID or whatever. Then you got to readjust, and that's the beauty of it all. Our identity, our purpose, our mission in life, it's never-ending change, never-ending change. Adaptation, change, back and forth, left and right. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. We've got some lovely comments on our Facebook group. I'm just busy watching as we are chatting, and people are asking you where they can get Apollos. So we're going to have to drop that down in the link below.
ApolloNeuro.com. Yep, I can put that in there. Yeah.
Fantastic. And And your Humble Alpha, I know people are going to want to find that. Do they need to pop over to your Facebook page, or have you got a nice, easy link for us?
Got a nice, easy link. I'm finding you right now on Facebook, and I will send that link over, and I will put both links in there. So,
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Awesome. Yes.
And people are asking where everybody is from on Facebook. So, Steven is coming to us from Hungary, right?
Right. That's right.
And I'm in Abu Dhabi at the moment in the UAE. So we've got the Middle East covered. We've got all sorts of people on our Facebook watching. So we've got, I can see some South African crowd here. I can see.
South Africa.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely, guys. We want to know where you're from. So add it in. So where I am, it's nice. It's sort of twilight. So I'm having a glass of wine. So cheers, everyone. And inside my glass of wine, I've got a strawberry and some blueberries. I don't know if you can see that. So while Steven's busy finding his links, we'll keep you entertained with.
Well, I'm posting right now, euro.com. I just posted the book.
Okay, so we've got Elaine, UAE. We've got Mount Calm, Texas. Ooh. Fantastic. Cheers, Joe, says Mel. I love that. And Ernestine, and we've got Jason Gabriel here, Deborah Galvin, some lovely Johnny B. Scott. Is he one of your guys?
Hey, Johnny. Yeah, he's from Texas. Great guy. Yep, there we go. So I just posted both. Port Elizabeth, South Africa. Awesome.
Wonderful. I'm loving this. Lots of fun.
I just tagged another South African for you. Just maybe get another South African online here. See if we can catch up. Hey, Jacob, man, Jacob Glassmeyer, this guy, right? I can tell you a story about Jacob. He's watching right now. I showed up in boot camp, right? I showed up in boot camp in 1986 in Fort Knox, Kentucky. And there was a guy there who shows up. And I'm like, holy shit, that guy looks exactly like Elvis, like when he was young. It's like, wow, this guy looks like Elvis. I'm like, dude, you look like Elvis. He's like, yeah, I can sing like him too. And he sang. I was like, oh my God, he's singing just like Elvis. That's Jacob. So we met in 1986, man. Too old. He's a Tai Chi master. Does some great work with that kind of a calming world. Focus on the things that are good and that kind of stuff. So he's one of the boys, you know, that sort of on our wavelength, if you will.
Fantastic. I love it. We're going to have you over for one of our masterminds. You can sing to us there, Jacob.
Yeah, Jacob. All right. Have him do some Tai Chi. He really knows his stuff when it comes to Tai Chi. Really knows his stuff. Yeah. Qigong as well and that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Fantastic. Now you've got it. We told everybody in the beginning that you're going to let everyone know these amazing people you've been working for and with, and you know, totally transforming their businesses. So we want to hear all of those juicy details, please, Steve.
Okay. Well, the first celebrity that I really worked for, I met a lot of celebrities in my life. Because I've been in Europe as an American, it's easy to sort of stick out. But, you know, I'd say the coolest experience of my life is I heard on the radio one time that the Rolling Stones were coming to Berlin, Germany. And, you know, they're going to be here, they're going to be there, and then they're going to be in Leipzig, then they're coming back to Berlin, and this, that, and the other. And at the end, they just mentioned, and the bodyguard staying home, right? Because he heard it was back in London. I heard that, I'm like, oh shit, they need a bodyguard. So I went to the hotel where they were, and I waited, and I just presented myself as a new bodyguard. And they're like, who's this guy, you know? Welcome home. And my kids are home. Okay, guys, recording the podcast. Say hi. Bye, Facebook. Hi, everybody. They were riding bikes. So. Yeah.
Need to pack.
Okay, go pack, guys. So he said, Mick said, first of all, I said, hey, Mick Jagger, I'm your buddy. And he said, who sent you? I said, I said, anyway, so he goes, talk to CJ and see what he says. So CJ was his assistant. So I talked to CJ. And CJ said, look, I got one question for you. And you got the job. I'm like, okay, what is it? He said, do you know where to get the best German sausage? I said, I do. He goes, good. How's $400 a day? You know? And so that was how I got that. That's how I got the job as the.
So you just showed up.
I just showed up.
Integrity and authenticity.
And creating space.
Creating space.
Right.
And flow. I love it.
Yeah. And then after that, you know, it was that was the bodyguard thing. So after that, I got into business and I got into the health club business and I got into the corporate world and that kind of stuff. And then through the years, you know, I was with a buddy who came to Germany. I met him, Luke Kirchhoff. We met up, I had a great time. And he introduced me to Olivia Newton-John. So the Australian, you know, singer,
yes,
and songwriter, Broadway and whatever. She's done everything.
Michelle.
And sorry about all the noise. And let me close the door. And so we met her on a beach. I'm like, so what do you guys do? And she talked about her husband's business, which was the Amazon Herb Company, which struck a chord with me, Amazon. And we ended up, helping her out, and ended up launching her company in 6 countries in Europe. One of the best reference letters I've ever gotten. You have a reference letter from Olivia Newton-John. That's pretty groovy.
I want to see it. We want to see it on your Facebook page. You've got to create yourself an album on your Facebook page, and we want all of these cool things up there.
Oh no!
So
yeah, well, you'll find it. You'll find. You'll find it on the page for sure.
Fabulous. And we've got Jacob says yes, he'll come and give us some singing.
Awesome. Yeah, it's I need that. No, just go. It's all right. You can play with it. So, one sorry, I'm gonna close the door again. I'm sorry about this.
This is the joy of working from home, isn't it, everyone? And now
that's right.
That's right. Everybody's working from home and have kids running through. It's fine.
All right, so let me tell you a story about how I ended up working for the king himself, Andrea Bocelli. Sorry, not the king, for Jacob, but the king of opera.
I love Andrea, so you've really got me there.
Andrea Bocelli, amazing. 0 experience in the industry, no industry contacts, and I was on a retainer when no one in music business gets a retainer. For anyone listening who doesn't know who Andrea is, he's the #1 opera singer in the world. He's like our generation's Pavarotti. So I got to say, it was the most profitable haircut I've ever gotten. I was sitting in a barbershop in Dusseldorf, right? I'm sitting there with an Italian. It was because it was Italian guys, and all they ever did was fight about soccer or football, as you'd call it, right? So I'm in there, I'm just laughing, having a good time. And this couple comes in, very, very young couple, I don't know, like 23, 24 years old. And she was from Bulgaria, he was Italian. We got to talk, and it turns out they're the opening act for Andrea Bocelli. And we got to talk, they asked me what I do, and Rosso, my barber, was telling him about what I did and stuff. And I said, okay, well, let's meet Andrea, because they said, well, could you be our manager? I'm like, you don't have a manager? I was like, well, Andrea's doing it right now, but he can't spend any time because he's always busy. I'm like, all right, let's set up a meeting with Andrea, right? So they set it up. A couple weeks later, we flew to London and met him backstage. I said, hey, Andrea, how you doing? And it's funny because when I said, hey, I touched him on the shoulder, sort of gave him a little hug and stuff, he smiled, right? So when they took a picture of my wife, myself, and Andrea, he smiled, and everybody was shocked, like he never smiles.
He doesn't.
And he never says hello or goodbye. He just like walks on stage, starts singing, and walks off. It's like crazy. And so that was like the first indication that, okay, I got to vibe with this guy, right? So I said, I'll see you tomorrow at the hotel. And he said, okay, great. And now when I showed up, Andrea wasn't there. Only his wife was, who is his manager and everything. And she happens to be like a massive tiger. She's like she's really hard woman who just gets stuff done. She's amazing. So someone else might have went in thinking like, oh Jesus, he stood me up. But luckily I didn't know anything about the industry. So I was there to do one thing, and that was to land Andrea as my client and to grow his business,
You had an expectation in those days, right?
Well, no, that was my intention, was to land him as a client through adding value and by solving problems. So the conversation went like this. I had done my homework, so I was like quickly able to point out a few gaps that I knew in their business model, and help them that I could grow the business, renegotiate contracts and things like that. And she was shocked that I even like knew this kind of stuff, that I took the time or whatever. And then I told her I wanted 20% of the takings from the business that I brought in and a retainer. And that retainer part it was funny because she's literally like laughed in my face, and typically that would throw someone off. Now I just started laughing with it. So she's like, no one in this business gets a retainer, nobody at all. But 20 minutes later, I walked out there with a retainer agreement, and I kept it for the whole 2 years that I worked with them. And within 2 weeks, I had my first meetings in London with the CEOs of top record labels. I was sitting in the office of Rhino Records with the CEO and Warner Brothers and Sony. And it was quite amazing. And that's sort of what I'm famous for, like landing the impossible deal. I can get practically anybody's private cell phone number, and I can land a meeting with just about anybody. And they typically pay attention to what I say because I make it about them, and I keep adding value, right? Keep solving problems and things like that. So that's basically the same kind of attitude that I use while creating space that I did with Olivia and Mick Jagger. So yeah, that's sort of like, the path is this, real simply put, without going into all the, the crazy details and structures and formats and things like that, is just show up wanting to do good. Right? Don't make it about you. Make it about them. I honestly, like people ask me all the time, why do you do a call every Wednesday with all these, mergers and acquisitions people? And I said, because I want them to be successful, man. That success in the life of the people that I know makes me successful. It's surrounding yourself with that vibe. It's, everyone says that you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with or whatever. Well, I hang out with 500 people. You know what I mean? It's like, I want to have that sum, you know what I'm saying? Like that's the sum that I get automatically, intrinsically, sort of osmosis, because I'm always with people that are like, yeah, thanks. You're right. I can do this. You're right. That is easier that way. And, I was on a call yesterday, like I said, with a guy who wanted to buy that company, and the other guy was on the call with me that's going to do a JV because he's a financial guy and I hate finances. Funny coming from an M&A guy, but business turnaround guy. I don't like dealing with all the banks and all that. He does all that.
No, your gift is people and alignment. Yeah.
And when you know that, when you know your strength, everyone says you got to strengthen your weaknesses. And I'm a firm believer that 20% of what you do, everyone says 20%, 80% rule, right? 20% of what you do gets 80% of your results. So why would I focus on 80% of the,
I agree.
Doesn't get results, right? Doesn't make sense. So outsource it down, delegate it, but delegate the task, not the responsibility. You are always responsible for what is in your life, enterprise, always and forever. Don't ever think that when you delegate something, they're going to take care of it. All right. It's your responsibility. So yeah, so on the call, he's like, man, you talked to that guy like it was nothing. It was like, how can you be so relaxed? I'm like, because all I want to do is add value. I don't have any. Yeah, but we want to buy the company. I said, do we? If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It doesn't matter to me. Exactly. It doesn't matter to me. I don't have to have it. As soon as you have the name, I have to have it. Then they feel that energy. And as soon as there's resistance there, they're going to pull back. Intrinsically, subconsciously, they're going to feel like something's not right. And they're going to pull back. And that's why sales meetings are so difficult, because people walk in there with a structure, a sales script, and start blah, blah, blah on you to death. And the guy's like, you didn't even ask me any questions yet. You have no idea about who I am, none of that stuff. So I don't do sales calls. We just talk.
There's no connection, right?
No, there's no connection. And the connection doesn't come from you listening only. You have to listen. You have to actively listen. You have to hear what they're saying and what they actually mean. But they have to feel that energy of you actually being present.
Yes.
You can talk to me all day long. I can look at you, but be thinking of something completely different. People feel that, whether you know it or not. They feel that, and that's key for me. Is that it's not something that I do consciously anymore. It's a habit. It's who I am. And once you get to that stage, it flows. I mean, literally, go to the grocery store, the gas station. You're up with your kid. It doesn't matter where you go. People are just delighted to see you because you make them feel good, right? And people are like, well, why would I do that? Because you're investing in relational capital in your entire life enterprise. It's like, imagine this. I'm sitting in the middle. My whole life enterprise is around me. What happens when I elevate them? It creates a funnel. Everything falls towards me, right? I mean, if you want to see it that way, right? So that's sort of how I do it. And don't get me wrong. I'm not an angel or a saint or someone who's perfect, because, man, I got my struggles too. I got PTSD from the Army, I'm disabled from the Army, from the war in Iraq. I have issues too. I have anger issues sometimes. I get upset, or I get depressed, really depressed. Like I dive deep and go underwater. I mean, like really like at a moment's notice sometimes. But I deal with all that in the same way. I know that there are thoughts that are driving me there. Right? So I try to work through them. Like, for instance, with PTSD or the depression attacks, I look at them directly and say, bring it on. What do you got for me? Like, I treat it like a thing, right? I let it pass through me. I acknowledge the entire thing. I acknowledge all of the hate, the love, the regret, whatever it is that you have. You acknowledge it all and take it as it is and say, yeah, you're there. I get it. But you're not going to dictate my reality. You're not. Maybe for this moment, but I'm working through it, and it'll be a better day tomorrow. So it sounds like a lot of work, but when it becomes intrinsic, when it becomes a part of who you are, it's just all in a shake of the hand.
And it's rewarding, right? The internal side, I can see your joy is overflowing, right?
Every day. I mean, that's the thing about it. I wake up every day and like, today's the day. Like, this is the day, and sometimes it's not the day. Mostly it's not the day, but I don't have like a defined outcome of what the day is going to. I have a long-term outcome. I have long-term goals and targets, and targets fall, goals don't, that kind of thing. But I wake up every day saying, today's the day, something amazing is going to happen today. And guess what? Every single day, something amazing happens. But if you're not aware of what's going on in your life, you won't see it. And most people don't see the amazing things that happen every day. It's a sad thing. I mean, Yeah, yesterday our kids started going back to school, so preschool, and I was like, thank God, after 3 months, whew, get some time off, right? As they were leaving, I looked, I'm like, wow, man, how quick do we adapt to the world? Because I felt sad that they were leaving, like they were leaving for the first day of school, and it was the first, they're out of the house for the first time again, right? So I had that feeling that I had 3 years ago when they started going, and yeah, and you're like, man, it was 3 months and we adapted that quick. Yeah. And the danger is this, is that now we're in this world that we're in, at least in America, is what's going on, is they're adapting to that right now as we speak. And, I was working for that British PLC. They had locations in Israel. And one day, a bomb went off and killed the security guard outside, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my God, how do you live like that? Like, what happens every day? It's not a big deal. It's what we got to deal with. Yeah, it's like, that's what we deal with. We live in a state of awareness, complete awareness, and security. And, civilians walk around with if you're in the military over there and you're active, even when you're in civilian clothes, you carry your weapon, sometimes. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, wow, you guys got used to that? And like, yeah. And I was thinking like, Jesus, I guess you get used to anything. And the thing is this, that the people that are out there hating and trolling and breaking shit and whatever it is, all anger, in my opinion, all anger comes from fear, right? Fear of loss, fear of whatever it is that you're fearing, fear of racism, fear of, being treated differently, fear of losing what you have, fear of not being respected, basically all anger.
Expectations, really, hey?
Of course, yeah, of course. But if we realize that the haters and all the bad people, there's something behind that they're scared of, we address that, we're going to address the problem. If we talk about racism, for instance, right, which everybody talks about right now, highly and incredibly in the States after what happened with Mr. Floyd. But we look at racism. Why are they upset? They're upset because what? What is it? What do they feel? I don't want to pretend I know, but what's the fear inside of them? What is it? It's not just, I don't get what other people get. It's more than that. Mm. And once we find out what that is, then we can address it. And I think, it's a shame that our world isn't there yet, but I'll be damned if I'm going to wait for them, right? I'm going to create that radiant value. Lane and I are creating that radiant value. Guy and Jeff are creating a radiant value. Jacob's creating radiant value. We're doing that. We're doing the work. And that's all you can do. People talk about, you got to go out, protest, you got to fight global warming, you got to fight this, you got to fight that. Go. If that makes you feel better, but I promise you this, it's not going to change your world.
No, it won't change the problem. Mother Teresa, I love Mother Teresa, People used to say to her, Mother Teresa, will you come with us and march, against abortion or whatever? And she said, no, never. She said, if you organize a rally marching for life, I'll be there. The positive. Don't resist the negative. It doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. It's got to be pro. Yeah, it's got to be pro. And even then, if you want to have impact in the world, you have impact in your world first.
Yes.
And that's where the radiant value comes from. Exactly.
Absolutely. And that's the name of my company, by the way, here in the Middle East, is Legacy Me, meaning you've got to create the legacy first within. You've got to lead yourself. And then something magic can happen because you've formed, true integrity with.
Exactly. Integrity is so important. People underestimate it and overuse the word. So they overuse the word and underestimate the meaning. And true relationships, like valuable relationships, are all based on integrity. Every healthy relationship that we have, whether it's business or private, is based on integrity. If you don't have integrity in your relationship, you have leverage, or someone else has leverage over you. And that's not healthy, right? So the integrity means honesty and transparency. And people say, well, I can't tell my competition everything that I know. I can't be transparent about my company. And I said, well, you're transparent to the point where you're staying honest and that there's a win-win created. Mm. So you're transparent about your business as far as it helps you and the person across from you both win, right? To the degree that both win, put it that way. It's just funny how people think it's either 100% off or 100% on. But the point is this, is if your conscience or the integrity inside of you feels like something's not off, or your intuition, then you can't do it. You got to do what's right for both, for them, for both.
That's true integrity, right?
Yeah, that's true integrity. Integrity is also doing what you say you're going to do, not doing what you say you're not going to do, But it's also, and this is the biggest one that most people forget about and don't worry about, is that integrity. Everybody talks about integrity. It's on every freaking strap line and service agreement, all this kind of stuff. It's integrity shows its true colors when you screw up, when you do something wrong. Do you stand up and say, yeah, that was me, how can I fix it now? Do you own it? Most people don't, right? A lot of people don't. And they're like, oh, I'm full of it. It wasn't my fault. Well, integrity, going down. Own it, fix it, onward, upward, move on. Yeah, simple as that.
100%. And I think that's the amazing thing, because you've got to be very secure in who you are in order to own your issues, right?
Yeah, you have to. You got to own everything in your life. You can't let it go. You can't just expect someone else to take care of it for you. And as hard as it sounds, no one cares for you as much as you care for you, as far as the outcome goes. I mean, I know a lot of people have issues with loving themselves. That's a whole nother story there. But when it comes to your well-being and welfare, no one cares for you more than
you. Yeah.
So treat yourself good. Be good to yourself. Own up. Get your affairs in order, as I say, and start new, and just start being that person. Start being that person you know you can be. I mean, every minute of the day you can go, now. I'm going to start now, right now. Wait until tomorrow. Wait until I make enough money. Wait until I get that job. Wait until we move, whatever it is. Do it now. Because when you start doing what you want to do right now, your world's going to change immediately. And when your world changes immediately, you're going to start getting the things you wanted in the first place.
Compound effect, right?
Exactly.
Slight edge.
Yeah. Well, anyone who's moving with purpose always has an edge, without a doubt.
And you're either going forwards or you're going backwards, right? You're either creating the life and the world that you desire and know that we deserve, in a sense,
Yeah. Everyone deserves. Everyone's deserved. We're all born into pure love, and none of us have any negativity in us when we're born and when we get younger. Look at my kids. They don't. They're just happy all the time, unless they're not. But they're not unhappy because of the world problems. They're not unhappy because of this, that, or the other. They're not happy because they didn't get ice cream for the 15th time. It's something like that. But we worry all the time. Humans worry all the time about this, that, and the other, and what can happen. It's just a thought. It's just a thought. It's literally just a thought. It hasn't happened yet, so don't worry about it. Forget about it. Change it into something positive. Use the positivity that you can find in this world and use the compound effect on that. Just keep building on top of that. It's hard, man. It's hard sometimes. I mean, I know there was times where I wasn't making enough money or any money, and I was like, God, and as soon as you start saying, I need, you're holding on to it too tight. So what you resist will persist, right? So I'm like, nah. And then as soon as you let go, you know what? I'm not going to focus on the end result. I'm going to focus on the now and create value now. Guess what? Then comes the results. And as soon as we let go and start living life and knowing that we all come from that place of love, of purity, we can always go back there. Not 100%, of course, but we can always go back there and embrace that and build upon that. And you're going to screw up. That's human condition. You're going to do things wrong. You're going to say the wrong things to people. But own it, right? Own it and just apologize outright. People are baffled sometimes, when I do something, or, I don't do many things to hurt anybody, but sometimes I'll do something, I might say the wrong thing or whatever, and they get all upset. Well, like just this banal example, yesterday I posted in the group, someone posted in the group, hey, Kickstarter campaign for a veteran who lost his business due to the riots. Let's support. And I clicked on it, and the goal was 15,000. They had 18,000. I was like, oh, you already reached it! ! Awesome. I didn't write awesome. I said, oh, you already reached it. And I put boom. And this guy writes back and just flames me out. Yeah, what do you mean? What do you mean we already reached it? What are you talking about? Why do you think? He thought I was saying, why'd you post it? Because you already reached it. You see? So typically I would be like, that's not what I meant. And a person would say that. And I thought to him, okay, yeah, because the true leader communicates in the way that for them to understand, not in the way that I mean it. Right? So I need them to understand how I meant it. And I said, you know what? You're right. I should have made that more clear, that I meant it in this way. And thanks for the heads up. And he was like, oh, oh. And then he wrote, he's like, that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool what you did.
That was pretty cool.
But it's normal. That's the way it should be. I don't know how people think. And this is what I always say. I don't know what he was. Maybe he was sitting in his house with no money, in his boxer shorts. His wife just yelled at him. His kids don't like him. He's out of money. You don't know. You don't know where he's coming from, right? So we have to respect the fact that most people who have that hate, who have that trolling effect, they're frustrated or whatever it is, that comes from fear.
Yes.
So, and fear is a vulnerable position, very, very vulnerable position. So when you know that, you can create immediately empathy for, wow, that poor guy's scared shitless.
Mm.
So yeah, it's just, that's the way I like to think, that there's inherent good in everything. That doesn't mean I'm going to walk up to a guy with a gun and say, hey, my brother, I mean, I can say I'm 6'4", what is it, 112 kilos. I'll take a dude out if I have to, you know what I mean? But it's not like, I'm not like kumbaya walking and putting flowers and weapons and stuff. I'm not that guy. But, I always have the first intention is like, that guy's hurting. That person's hurting, that girl's hurting, that group is hurting, someone's in pain, they're scared of something. But of course, if they take steps or actions that's going to hurt me or my family, my friends, it's over. So it's just so people understand that I'm not like, the gown wearing crystal on my forehead kind of guy.
But I absolutely love what you're saying. I remember a time when a cop stopped me for speeding, and I really was. I like to drive fast.
Drive, right? Yeah.
I'm telling you. And he said to me, ma'am, I'm going to have to give you a fine. I said, I understand. He said, you mean you're not contesting? I said, no, I know I was driving fast. If I earned it, I have to have it. And that's okay with me. You have to write it. Yeah. And he ended up killing himself laughing. He said, I've never in my life has anyone told me that they deserve their fine. Yeah. They've always denied that they did it. And here you are saying you deserve it. I said, of course, you know what I mean? Just give it to me because I know that's cool. It's justice, And he laughed. He said, ma'am, you have to go. I can't give you a fine now. It's just, you've made my day. Yeah, he said, you've made my day because you're honest.
That's usually what happens too. Yeah, that's when you empower them to be who they are and allow them, and you give no resistance when you did it anyway. As soon as, that's the thing, when someone resists, often the first reaction of the person across is like, oh, they're guilty. No, it's just immediate. It's just like human nature. So when you don't resist, when you're like, hey, give me the ticket, it's like, oh, why is this guy wanting to get in the way? Like all these profiling. Yeah, it's like I work with law enforcement. I work with the number one behavioral specialist in America. And he works with cops this way. He tells you when they look down, when they look up, when it's the stop, when they talk fast, when they talk slow. All these things mean something, right? And that's only when you're not aligned. Like, look, officer, I don't know what I did. Tell me what it is, and I can agree or not agree. Just simple as that. He's like, well, so,
I just said, I know I was speeding. I speed.
I don't know if I say that, but yeah.
I love it.
Typically, honestly, in America, I just pull out my ID card and show them my military ID card. My retire my.
But that works just as well as honesty.
Oh, you're a veteran. Yeah. You know why I do that? Because they'll tell a story 100%.
Wow.
And so I listen to their story. I'm like, wow, yeah, I was stationed there, or I knew somebody stationed there, or whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's, when people get to talk about themselves, much like this podcast we're doing right now, crazy stuff happens. Really cool things happen that you don't want to talk about before, or it's not scripted or anything like that. That's why creating space is so important, because you get the best out of people. The most genuine responses.
We've got some lovely bits here. People are loving the authenticity. Love over fear. Mel Craven says, all anger comes from fear. Nestine Buerta. Thanks, Nestine. Thanks, Mel. Mel says, vulnerability, compassion, and being in the now with optimism.
Yes. Yes, indeed. And, optimism we create, right? So we create it. That's the thing we create. We can create the opposite too, but be a negative. And it's an active step in anything that we do. Sometimes you wake up, I'm in a good mood for no reason. Why am I in a good mood? What happened? And then suddenly you're in a bad mood. You're like, what happened? I don't understand now. The next thing you know, you're fighting with yourself. You're like, just enjoy it. I'm trying to analyze it, right? You know what I mean? It's like, like, so you're in a good mood today. I don't know why. It's weird. It's strange. I don't know what, Say, hell yeah, I'm in a good mood. Let's go. Or whatever,
Fantastic. Stephen, how can people get hold of you?
They can get hold of me. You probably tag me. Go to my page there, or to my private thing, and drop me a mail or message. They go to our website, QOL Enterprises, which stands for Quality of Life, which I always talk about at the end of every video I've ever done. And remember, it's all about quality of life. So QOLenterprises.com is what my Lane and myself. HumbleAlphaBook.com. I already posted it in there. You can grab that. And then for my speaking and sort of public media image, it's Steven-Kuhn.com. You can
And
see like my reel and stuff like that. So
fantastic. And you are live on Facebook daily, aren't you?
I do live on Steven Kuhn Official every day. I do a daily purge, and the daily purge is basically I get up in the morning, I go train, and when I'm training, I listen to my audiobooks. So I listen to like Inside Revolution, Letting Go, all these like really cool books, The Art of Getting Rich, Wallace Wattles, all this kind of stuff. And I come back and I'm adapting it to my life for the day, and then I purge what's coming out of my mind. So I just like get on live and just go blah, 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 whatever. This is what I'm thinking about right now. And this is how I think it can fit into life. And this is how I'm dealing with the riots that are going on. And I think that people do this and because of that. It all comes from, it's literally a purge of what's in my mind. And what that does, people are like, why are you always positive? I'm like, what do you want me to do? Be negative? Seriously? I want to dictate the impact that I have, right? I want to have a positive impact. Even my media company, they're like, Steven, you got to be more controversial. Your titles have to be, you're wrong, you need to do this or something like that. I'm like, that's not who I am. Yeah, but then you're not getting as many viewers. I'm like, well, then tough.
Not aligned, is it?
I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And it's just, we have this second right now, this minute right now, this hour, this day, one time in our life. That's it. That's it. This is it right here. It's over. Like as soon as we stop talking, that second's over. We'll never have that chance again, ever. Right? So if we think of it that way, why would you waste any time on anything that's not productive or joyful or loving or caring?
Aligned with your purpose.
Ecstatic or erotic. No, it's too long.
Not that one.
Yeah. Oh, man. Like I said, the kids went back to school today. No, I'm kidding.
That made a difference, huh?
Yes, it did. Yeah, real life.
Like, yay, the kids are gone.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I've got exciting news to tell the Influencr Magazine family, and that is that Steven has agreed to join us as a mentor. So we're very excited to have him on board as part of the family.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's awesome. And we're just so delighted to have you, and so glad that you could come on here with us today and just bring your amazing value and wisdom to all of our family and listeners. And we've got so many hearts and likes and everything coming up the screen right now. So that's fantastic. Everybody's loving on you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It's a true pleasure. I love being able to pass on knowledge. So it's made my day. Thanks so much.
We can see. Thanks, Steven. So we have had Steven Kuhn with us, and he has been talking about his book, The Humble Alpha. And ladies, I believe you are the biggest buyers of this book, although it was designed for guys. And Steven also works with a lot of military veterans. So if you know of anyone, make sure that they can get in touch with him, because he serves a huge group of about 14,000 veterans, and that is not a small thing. Helps them to set themselves up with business and to find their true purpose and passion. Am I right?
Right on. That's right.
Fantastic. And Steven has been talking to us today about creating a hit squad. So that is humility. Am I right?
Honesty, integrity, transparency. All right. Humility is good too.
And we have been talking about creating a human funnel of just being present and absolutely serving, coming with a whole spirit of integrity and no expectation, but just living in the present moment and delivering great value and being present with real people.
Right. And the how is what we talked about. So the how do you live in the moment? A lot of people say that, live in the moment, live in the moment. Yeah. How? If you want to listen to the Eckhart Tolle audiobook, good luck. You're going to fall asleep. That's the most monotone voice I've ever heard. Great book. The audiobook. That's all.
We have to offer to do it for them.
I don't know about that. I think I talk too fast. I think I talk with your South African accent would be great. Yes. I love it.
No. I've got a little South African accent and a little British accent. The Zimbabwean.
Yeah, I hear the South African. Yeah. Awesome.
Steven, thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And welcome, someone welcome me to the family. Mel, thank you so much.
Good. Yes. Mel does a wonderful program with us. She's got a talk show called Only Love, and everything that you've been talking about will have resonated with Mel. She'll be so jolly excited about this year. Thanks, family.
Thank you so much. Cheerio.
It's alive.
Awesome. That was cool. That was a lot
Thank
of fun.
you very much.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah, that was awesome.